What if I told you that you do not have to cut out carbohydrates to fix your blood sugar? In fact, the fastest way to bring your numbers down may have nothing to do with elimination at all. The most powerful approach I have seen in clinical practice is about adding foods. Specific foods. Foods that talk directly to your insulin receptors and restore the system your body was designed to run on. I have watched this work firsthand. Hundreds of patients, many of them over 70, many of them already on medications, who brought their fasting numbers down meaningfully in a matter of days. Not by starving themselves, not by cutting every carbohydrate they loved, by adding the right foods to what they were already eating. And not just temporarily. Many of them have held those lower numbers without adding medications for months and even years. In this video, I am going to show you 10 of those foods. I'm going to explain exactly what each one does inside your body. And I am going to show you precisely how to use each one, because the how matters just as much as the what. You do not have to do all 10 tomorrow. Add them in over the next couple of weeks and stack them. By the end of this video, you will understand your blood sugar in a way that most people never learn, even from their own doctors. If you have not subscribed yet, please hit that button now and turn on the bell, so you never miss content made specifically for adults over 70 who want real answers, not just another prescription. And before we go into the first food, leave me a comment right now telling me what your morning fasting number was this week. I read every single one. Your numbers and your age shape exactly what I cover next. Let me explain what is actually happening inside your body. Because once you understand this, every food on today's list will make complete sense. High blood sugar almost always starts upstream with a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the chemical key that unlocks your cells so that glucose, the sugar circulating in your blood, can get out of the bloodstream and into the cell where your body actually uses it for energy. When you have spent years on the blood sugar roller coaster, when your diet has been sending repeated spikes of glucose into your system, your cells do something remarkable in the worst possible way. They stop answering the door. Insulin knocks, and the cell stays shut. We call that insulin resistance. Your pancreas responds by pumping out more and more insulin to compensate, trying to force the cells open. Your blood sugar climbs anyway, and the standard medical answer is a prescription that pushes even more insulin into a system already overwhelmed by it. Here is what almost no one explains to you in a standard 12-minute office visit. Insulin resistance is not permanent, it is not irreversible. It is a cellular communication failure, and certain foods can restore that communication directly at the level of the receptor itself. The cell that stopped opening the door can learn to open it again. My name is Dr. Elijah Cater. Every food I'm going to show you today does one of 3 jobs. It slows the sugar coming in, so your pancreas never has to panic. It cools the inflammation that is jamming the insulin signal at the cell surface. Or it walks right up to the insulin receptor and helps it grip again, so your own body does the work it was designed to do. 3 jobs, 10 foods. Let us begin. Quick pause before food number 1, because if what I just described sounds like your situation, I want you to do one thing right now. Drop your age and your most recent fasting glucose number in the comments below. Just those 2 things. I read every single comment personally, and the numbers you share directly shape what I produce next on this channel. And if this is the kind of content you want more of, the why behind your body, not just a prescription, please hit subscribe. Now, 10 foods, 3 jobs. Let us get into it. Food number 1, fenugreek seeds. These are small, hard, amber-colored seeds. You can find them in the spice aisle of almost any grocery store for a couple of dollars. And if you walk past this one because it sounds unfamiliar, you are walking past one of the most powerful blood sugar tools available at any price. Here is what fenugreek does inside your body. The seed is packed with a soluble fiber called galactomannan. When it hits the water in your stomach, it swells into a thick, viscous gel. That gel physically slows how fast your stomach empties carbohydrates into your small intestine. Slower emptying means glucose trickles into your blood instead of flooding it. No flood, no giant spike, no panic release of insulin. Beyond the fiber, fenugreek contains an amino acid called 4-hydroxyisoleucine that nudges your pancreas to release insulin more efficiently and helps your muscle cells take up glucose from the blood. It is working on both sides of the equation simultaneously. How to use it? Take 1 teaspoon of whole seeds and soak them overnight in a glass of water. In the morning, drink the water and eat the softened seeds before breakfast. If the slightly bitter taste is too much, grind them and stir half a teaspoon into yogurt or sprinkle over eggs. Start with a small amount. This fiber is potent and your gut needs a few days to adjust. Build up gradually. Food number 2 is almost certainly already in your kitchen, but most people have the wrong kind, and the wrong kind does almost nothing. Food number 2, Ceylon cinnamon, and the kind matters enormously. The common grocery store cinnamon is cassia cinnamon. It carries a compound called coumarin that becomes hard on the liver when taken in daily doses over time. The one you want is Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes labeled true cinnamon. It is milder, it is safe for daily use, and it is the one I recommend to every patient who asks. What makes cinnamon work is a group of plant compounds called polyphenols. These compounds behave remarkably similarly to insulin. They help your insulin receptors grip glucose more effectively, and they slow your stomach from emptying too quickly after a meal. The research on this is solid. Work from the Human Nutrition Research Program at the USDA found that less than half a teaspoon a day meaningfully lowered fasting glucose in adults with type 2 diabetes. That is a measurable, clinically significant effect from a spice that costs almost nothing. How to use it: 1/4 to half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon daily, stirred into your oatmeal, your coffee, or a smoothie. The key is to pair it with a carbohydrate-containing meal, because that is precisely when you want those receptors gripping harder and your stomach slowing down. Check the label when you buy it. Ceylon, not cassia. Number 3 is the most underused food in this entire video, and the distinction that makes it work is one most people miss completely. Food number 3, broccoli sprouts, not full broccoli. The distinction is everything. Broccoli sprouts are the tiny 3-day-old seedlings, not the mature vegetable. And that distinction matters more than almost anything else in this video. Broccoli sprouts contain somewhere between 50 and 100 times more of the active compound than a full head of mature broccoli. That compound is called sulforaphane, and it does something none of the other foods on this list do quite as directly. It goes to your liver and quietly turns down the overnight glucose factory. Here is something that confuses a lot of people with elevated blood sugar. Your liver produces glucose while you sleep. It is a natural process called hepatic glucose output. But in insulin resistance, the liver makes far too much, which is exactly why so many people over 70 wake up with a high fasting number they cannot explain. They fasted all night, and the number went up anyway. A 2017 study from Lund University in Sweden gave concentrated sulforaphane to people with type 2 diabetes and brought their fasting blood sugar down measurably, with the strongest effect in the people whose numbers had been the hardest to control. How to use it: a small handful, roughly 1/4 cup, on a salad or sandwich most days. You can grow them on your own counter in a jar for almost nothing, or find them in the produce section of most grocery stores. Do not cook them hard. High heat destroys the active compound. Eat them raw or barely wilted. So far, every food has been doing quiet, upstream work. The next 4 change the meals you are already eating without removing anything you love. Food number 4, avocado. And if you have been avoiding it because of the calories, that fear has been costing you. Most people think of avocado as a high-calorie fat to limit. The fat in an avocado is monounsaturated fat, the same family as olive oil, and it is one of the most blood sugar-friendly things you can put on a plate. Here is the mechanism. The healthy fat and the fiber inside an avocado slow your entire meal down. When you add half an avocado to a plate that also has rice or toast, you are not removing the carbohydrate. You are putting a brake on how fast that carbohydrate turns into blood sugar. The glucose climbs gradually instead of spiking. Over time, monounsaturated fat has also been associated in multiple studies with improved insulin sensitivity, meaning your cells start answering that insulin knock a little faster. In clinical practice, this is the easiest food on this list to make a permanent habit. It makes the meal more satisfying, it reduces the mid-morning hunger that sends people toward processed snacks, and it begins working from the very first meal. How to use it: half an avocado a day is a sensible amount. On your eggs in the morning. Mashed onto whole grain toast. Added to a salad that already has a starch in it. Anywhere you have a carbohydrate, avocado softens the blood sugar response. Food number 5 is the size of a pinhead and it punches far above its weight. Food number 5, chia seeds. If you have ever watched chia seeds sit in liquid and turn into a thick pudding, you have already seen exactly how they work inside your digestive system. Chia is one of the richest sources of soluble fiber available. When it contacts the water in your stomach, it forms the same slow-release gel we discussed with fenugreek, wrapping around the carbohydrates in your meal and slowing their absorption to a steady, gentle trickle rather than a wave. The glucose releases gradually. The spike flattens. The crash that normally leaves you shaky and hungry an hour after eating does not happen. But chia does something else that matters at the 70+ level specifically. It carries a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that helps calm the chronic low-grade inflammation sitting underneath insulin resistance. Cool that inflammation and the cell walls become more permeable to the insulin signal. The receptor starts working the way it is supposed to. How to use it? 1 to 2 tablespoons daily, stirred into yogurt, dropped into a glass of water with lemon, blended into a smoothie. Give it 10 minutes to gel before drinking, and take it with plenty of water. All that fiber needs liquid to move properly. Food number 6 does not work by slowing your meal down. It works on the deeper problem, the reason your cells went deaf to insulin in the first place. Food number 6, fatty fish, and I mean salmon and mackerel specifically. Insulin resistance is driven in large part by chronic low-grade inflammation. When your body is quietly inflamed year after year, and this is extremely common after 70, that inflammation physically interferes with the insulin signal at the surface of the cell. The receptor is there. It is trying to work, but the inflammatory environment is jamming the signal before it can get through. Salmon and mackerel are loaded with 2 omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, that are among the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory compounds we have identified. They lower the inflammatory signals directly. The cell membrane becomes healthier. The insulin receptor starts functioning the way it was designed to. In 15 years of clinical practice, the patients who eat fatty fish twice a week consistently show calmer, more stable glucose numbers, and better blood pressure and cardiovascular markers alongside them. How to use it? 2 servings per week, roughly the size of your palm each time. Wild salmon, mackerel, sardines, and herring are all excellent choices. Bake it, grill it, or buy it canned if budget is a consideration. Canned mackerel and sardines are among the cheapest and most nutrient-dense foods on this entire list. Do not overlook them. Number 7 is a nut. And of all the nuts I could recommend, this is the one I point every patient toward first. Food number 7, walnuts. Of all the tree nuts, walnuts are the one I recommend first, and the reason comes down to what they do for the lining of your blood vessels. Walnuts are rich in polyunsaturated fat and the same plant-based omega-3 found in chia seeds. That fat improves the function of your endothelium, the thin, delicate lining inside your blood vessels that high blood sugar progressively damages over time. Protecting that lining matters enormously at 70 and beyond. At the same time, the combination of fat, fiber, and protein in walnuts blunts the blood sugar rise after a meal, and has been shown in research to lower fasting insulin, the number underneath your blood sugar reading that tells you how hard your pancreas is working. When you replace a processed snack, crackers, a cookie, a piece of bread, with a small handful of walnuts, you have taken a blood sugar spike and turned it into a flat line. That one substitution, repeated daily, creates a measurable difference in your numbers over weeks. How to use them? A small handful, roughly a quarter cup or 7 to 10 whole walnuts, as a snack. Raw or dry roasted only, not candied, not honey-coated. Replace a processed snack with them. Do not simply add them on top of your existing eating. Food number 8 is one you have probably been avoiding because of advice that was simply wrong, and that bad advice has been hurting your blood sugar for years. Food number 8, whole eggs, yolk included. For years, people were told the yolk was the enemy. That advice pushed millions of people, including millions of seniors, toward sugary breakfast cereals that were catastrophically worse for their blood sugar. I want to set that record straight. A whole egg contains almost no carbohydrate, protein and fat almost exclusively. On its own, it barely moves your blood sugar at all. But the real power of the egg is something researchers call the second meal effect. When you start your day with eggs instead of cereal or toast, you stabilize your blood sugar not just at breakfast, but all the way through to lunch. You walk into your next meal with calmer numbers and a smaller subsequent spike. The protein and fat keep you full and steady, so the mid-morning hunger that sends people toward processed foods quietly disappears. In clinical practice, swapping a cereal or toast breakfast for 2 or 3 whole eggs is one of the single fastest changes I see reflected on a morning glucose reading, often within the first week. How to use them? 2 to 3 whole eggs in the morning, scrambled, boiled ahead for the week, or folded with spinach. Add the avocado from food number 4 on top, and you have built one of the most blood sugar protective breakfasts possible for an adult over 70. Number 9 has the fastest visible effect on a glucose meter of anything on this entire list. If you have a meter at home, you can watch this one work tonight. Food number 9, apple cider vinegar. This one has a drug-sized effect on your blood sugar spike, from something that costs a few dollars a bottle. The active compound is acetic acid. It does two things at once. It slows your stomach from emptying after a meal, so the carbohydrates arrive in your bloodstream gradually rather than in a wave, and it helps your muscle cells pull glucose out of the blood and use it for fuel more efficiently. The research here is among the strongest on this list. Work led by Dr. Carol Johnston at Arizona State University found that 1 tablespoon of vinegar taken before a carbohydrate meal lowered the after-meal blood sugar spike by approximately 20% in people with insulin resistance. 20% from a tablespoon of vinegar taken 15 minutes before eating. How to use it? And this matters. 1 tablespoon diluted in a full glass of water, taken 10 to 15 minutes before a meal that contains carbohydrates. Always dilute it, never drink it straight. Undiluted acetic acid is hard on tooth enamel and the throat. One important caution specifically for this audience. If you are already taking medication for blood sugar, metformin, sulfonylurea, or insulin, please talk to your doctor before adding vinegar regularly. It can lower your blood sugar efficiently enough that your existing medication dose becomes too strong, and that combination can push you into a low. Add it with your doctor watching your numbers. Food number 10 proves the central point of this entire video. It is a carbohydrate, and it will lower your blood sugar. Food number 10. Lentils, a carbohydrate that lowers blood sugar. This is the food that proves everything we have been discussing. Lentils are a carbohydrate, and eaten regularly, they will help bring your numbers down. Here is how that works. Lentils are built from a slow-releasing carbohydrate called resistant starch, wrapped inside soluble fiber, alongside a meaningful dose of plant protein. That combination means the glucose inside the lentil is released into your bloodstream slowly and steadily over hours. Not all at once in a spike. They carry the second meal effect we discussed with eggs. A bowl of lentil soup at lunch gives you steadier blood sugar not just at lunch, but flowing into the evening as well. Clinically, swapping white rice or white potato for lentils 2 to 3 times per week is one of the most reliable dietary changes I know of for meaningfully lowering an A1C, your 3-month blood sugar average, DOX, over time. How to use them? Half a cup to 1 cup of cooked lentils 2 to 3 times per week. In a soup, a stew, or a cold salad dressed with olive oil and a splash of the apple cider vinegar we just covered. They are filling, inexpensive, and they make a meal last far longer than most other foods at this price point. Now let me tie all 10 of these together and show you why they work when cutting carbs alone consistently fails. Let me tell you about a patient I will call Margaret. Lucy was 71 years old, a retired nurse from Charlotte, North Carolina. She had spent 30 years administering care to patients with advanced diabetes, watching the disease take mobility, vision, independence. She knew exactly what that progression looked like from the inside. And when her own fasting numbers reached 194, she sat in my office terrified. Her physician had just recommended adding insulin to her regimen. Margaret did not want that. Not because she feared the medication. She had administered it to patients for 3 decades. She feared what it represented. The beginning of a road she had watched too many people travel in one direction. We did not cut her carbohydrates to nothing. We added eggs and avocado replaced her cereal in the morning, a tablespoon of vinegar before her larger meals. Lentils swapped in for white rice 2 nights a week. A small handful of walnuts replaced the afternoon biscuit. Fatty fish twice a week. Ceylon cinnamon in her morning coffee. Broccoli sprouts on her lunch sandwich. Within the first week, her fasting numbers began to drop. Within 4 months, working alongside her own physician, her A1C had moved from 8.4 to 6.9. The insulin prescription was not needed. 2 years later, her numbers have held. She told me at her last appointment, "I spent 30 years watching this disease take people. I wasn't going to let it take me." She did not starve herself. She ate more food, just the right food, and her own body did the rest. Let me tie all 10 together, because this is the reason they work when cutting carbs alone fails. Every one of these foods is returning your insulin system to its job, without restricting you into misery. The fiber foods, fenugreek, chia, lentils, avocado, slow the glucose down so your pancreas never has to panic. No flood, no spike, no compensatory insulin dump. The anti-inflammatory foods, fatty fish, walnuts, chia, cool the chronic inflammation that has been jamming the insulin signal at the cell wall. Remove the jam and the signal gets through. The receptor foods, cinnamon vinegar, walk directly up to the insulin receptor and help it grip again. The door that stopped opening starts opening on the first knock. Do that meal after meal, day after day, and the cellular communication that broke down gradually restores itself. That is what reversing insulin resistance means at the practical level. And once it happens, your body holds your sugar down on its own, which is exactly why Margaret's numbers stayed low for 2 full years without additional medication. That is not luck. That is biology working the way it was designed to work, when you give it what it needs. Safety warning. Before I give you tonight's action plan, I need to draw one clear line, because this is a medically serious topic and your safety comes before everything. If you are currently on insulin, or on a class of blood sugar medications called sulfonylureas, which includes glipizide, glyburide, and glimepiride, these foods can lower your blood sugar efficiently enough that your existing medication dose may suddenly become too strong. That can push you into hypoglycemia, a blood sugar low, which in adults over 70 can be genuinely dangerous. Do not stop or reduce any prescription on your own. What to do instead is bring this list to your next appointment. Show your doctor what you are adding. Ask them to monitor your numbers more frequently as you make these changes. As your body responds, they can guide your medication dose down appropriately and safely. The foods in this video are not a replacement for professional medical supervision. They are a powerful complement to it, when used with your doctor's knowledge. Everything else I have shared today is appropriate for general educational purposes. But if you are on blood sugar medication of any kind, please loop your physician in before making significant dietary changes. Here is exactly what to do starting tonight. 5 steps, all of them simple. Step 1. Tonight soak 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds in a glass of water. Drink it and eat the seeds first thing tomorrow morning before breakfast. Step 2. Tomorrow morning, replace your cereal or toast with 2 or 3 whole eggs and half an avocado. That single breakfast swap changes your blood sugar response for the entire day. Step 3. Buy Ceylon cinnamon, not cassia, and begin a 1/4 teaspoon a day in your coffee, oatmeal, or yogurt. Step 4. Before your biggest carbohydrate meal tomorrow, take 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in a full glass of water, 15 minutes before you sit down to eat. Step 5. This week, swap white rice or white potato for lentils at least twice. Put fatty fish on the menu 2 evenings. Stack these in over the next 2 weeks. You are not removing the foods you love. You are adding the foods that protect you. Your body will begin responding, and you will see it on your meter. High blood sugar after 70 is not a sentence. It is a signal. And now you understand what it is signaling and what to say back. Start with 1 food today, add another next week. Stack them. And give your body the 6 to 8 weeks it needs to begin restoring what insulin resistance has been slowly disrupting. The cell that stopped answering the door can learn to open it again. You have just been given the tools to make that happen. Now I want to hear from you. What is your morning fasting number this week? And which of these 10 foods are you going to start with? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. I am Dr. Elijah Carter. Take care of your numbers, and I will see you in the next one.